What's up, Dragon Brood? We're on day 9, I think it is, of Bloomburrow previews, and we still have a lot more to talk about. I just took a look, and there's a bunch more cards today, so we're going to get into them. Let's start here with this Caretaker's Talent. This is 2 colorless and a white. When one or more tokens you control enter, you draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. You can pay 1, and when this class becomes level 2, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. Or you can pay 4. Creatures tokens you control get +2/+2. So this is actually pretty good overall. This kind of reminds me of, there was another enchantment that I think is still standard legal actually, that when you have a creature power 3 or less enter the battlefield, you get to draw a card. That's actually been playable, but this lets any token come in the battlefield and draw a card. Again, only once a turn, so there's that, but then you get the option of copying something for 1 mana, which is kind of nice. And then you can just pay 4 and everything gets pumped after that. So this can likely find a home, if not in rabbits, definitely in some other token piles. Here we have Flame Cash Gecko, colorless and a red for a 2/2 Lizard Warlock. When it enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, you add a red and a black mana. You can pay 1 and a colorless to discard a card, draw a card. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, there are a lot of ways for the lizards to deal damage. So if you were to get one of those before this, like, this is effectively free and you get to play something else, which is kind of nice, or even chain multiples of these out. But at the end of the day, after it's on the battlefield, it's mostly a 2/2 creature. Like, sure, we can discard a card, draw a card as part of the cost at some point down the line. But I don't know how many of these a lizard deck would want, more than maybe just a couple of them. I could be really wrong on this one, but I think we've seen a lot of other 1, 2, and 3 mana lizards that are probably going to eat up most of the slots that this would want. But if you're on a budget, this is a reasonable option. This duder isn't squared up, but I do need to go to the translation. So this is a Scrap Shooter. It's a 3 mana, so colorless green for a 4/4 raccoon. It has reach, and you can gift a card. When it enters, if you promise the gift, you can target an artifact and enchantment opponent controls and destroy it. So this is a 3 mana 4/4, just straight up with reach. And then if we just need to destroy an artifact and enchantment, we can give them a card to get rid of something. I'm kind of into this, right? Like, we're already having to play some cards to destroy artifacts and enchantments in the like mono green or Gruul aggro type decks. But this is a real size body, a 4/4 for 3. Not even 3 green, 2 green and a colorless. And in a pinch, we can just use this as our artifact or enchantment removal, so you don't have to eat as many slots to deal with that. Like, yeah, I'm into this card. This card's wild. Like, between this and the keen-eyed whatever that guy was from yesterday, the 3/3 for 2, like, you have a pretty good starting pair for raccoons. Man, today is like the day of efficiently costed things, I guess. This is Cruel Claw's Heist. It's 2 black, so black, sorcery. You can gift a card. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. If the gift was promised, you may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. And mana of any color can be spent to cast it. Okay, so you can pay 2 and just treat this like a lot of black discard spells for 2 mana. Like, you choose a non-land card, they exile the card. But if you opt to give them a card, then you also get the option to cast that later down the road. This card feels really good. Actually, let's see. When you gift a card, you may promise a card an opponent as you cast this spell. If you do, they draw a card before this other effects. So you actually get to see the card they draw before you choose. So giving them a card might almost always be the option on this, because then you get to pick from more quality things in their hand. Man, there's going to be a lot of situations that I think we're going to have to learn about this card, but it's definitely playable. And it may not even need to be in specifically a discard deck. This just could let you take a powerful card from the opponent. All right, so this one is Beast Binder. It is a colorless and a blue for a 1/3 rat rogue. It has vigilance and can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Whenever this card attacks, up to 1 target artifact, creature, or planeswalker loses all abilities until your next turn. If it's a creature, it has base power 2/2 Oh, power and toughness 2/2 until your next turn. All right. So can't be blocked by small things. Whenever it attacks, you can target an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, and then that card does nothing. And if it's a creature, it also becomes a 2/2. So effectively, if your opponent has only a 4/4 blocker, you can attack and target it. It becomes a 2/2. So then now it can't block this because this can't be blocked by anything with power 2 or greater. So it's a really interesting card. Obviously, it can be chump blocked by small things, can't be blocked by big things. Turns off planeswalkers, artifacts for a turn till your next turn. It's efficient. It's only 2 mana for a 1/3. It does have vigilance. Like, yeah, this can be played. This can totally be played. I don't know what deck wants it necessarily or which way rats are going to be built, but there's enough going on with this card that it could be worth playing. Essence Channeler, colorless and a white for a 2/1 Bat Cleric. As long as you've lost life this turn, Essence Channeler has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Essence Channeler. When it dies, put those counters on target creature you control. Well, one, this card is going to be very popular, right? The life gain decks, the bat decks, whatever, all are going to want this. This is similar to the cleric that existed before, but that was 2 white, and it automatically got flying and vigilance whenever it got its 4th counter. Not a thing here, but this can have flying if you've lost life this turn. And since some of the bats already have ways built in for you to lose life, probably going to be pretty possible that this card's going to have flying and vigilance quite a lot. It's also a 2/1 instead of a 2/2 like the other card we were talking about. However, this is also only 1 white and 1 colorless, not 2 white mana. So it's a little bit easier to cast. Also has a dies trigger, which is pretty nice. Similar to the Quirion Beastcaller, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, just a good all-around card, I think. If you're playing life gain or you're playing the bats, this will make the cut. Like, this is probably going to be a 4 of in those decks, actually. Sonar Strike obviously has something to do with the bat. Colorless and a white for an instant. Sonar Strike deals 4 damage to target attacking, blocking, or tapped creature. You gain 3 life if you control a bat. This is just a fine creature removal spell if you're playing bats, but otherwise nothing too crazy. Agate Blade Assassin, colorless and a black for a 1/3 lizard assassin. Whenever Agate Blade Assassin attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This could be played in a couple of things. This is a very unassuming common, right? Because lizards want you to deal life to your opponent to lose life every turn, right? So this is going to guarantee do that when it attacks. But the bats might also want a card like this, right? You can attack, guaranteed opponent, you lose a life, you gain a life. It's like, maybe? But yeah, this might find a home in a few places. Definitely can be a budget option for a couple of different decks if you're worried about the life gain situation. Psychic Whirl, 2 colorless and a black. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Then if you control a rat, you surveil 2. I mean, we have a lot of versions of this. Pay 3, opponent discards 2. This has upside if you're playing rats, because then you get to surveil. So this one gets a big maybe for me. We don't play a lot of the other versions of this, so it may not be much. But if it is, this is the version to play if you have any rats. All right, this is Playful Shove. A colorless and a red for a sorcery. It deals 1 damage to any target and draw a card. It's interesting that this is even an uncommon, because it's a sorcery on top of it, and it only deals 1 damage. But it's to any target, so you can hit opponents, creatures, planeswalkers. But you draw a card. Could be, and I don't know if this is true, but it could be a reasonable option for the Otters deck, right? Because I think there's a couple of ways they can make spells cheaper, and this lets you draw a card, so you can keep chaining things. This is probably where I would look to play it. It's interesting that the art has a raccoon and a mouse. I don't know why that is, unless this could be set up for mice to be able to target their own things, which is why it's only 1. So you don't kill your creature, but you do get to set off one of the Valiant triggers, and you get a card. I mean, possibly, which is why, the name in conjunction with the artwork might be telling us a little something. But I don't know if we really need it, is the thing. But, like I said, that is a reasonable use for it that I could easily be sold on. Rabid Gnaw. Wow, what is going on with the giant teeth on this mouse? It's a colorless and a red. For an instant, target creature you control gets +1/+0 to end the turn. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Okay, so creature gets +1, and then it's a fight spell. So a red, actually a red bite spell, which is interesting. Okay, yeah, this could very realistically be playable. Yeah, this is kind of cool, actually. Nothing crazy, but yeah, I could see this. I could see this being very good with various prowess decks, otter decks, anything like that. Raccoon Rallier. Hey, it's got like a little didgeridoo. That's cool. Colorless and a red for a 2/2 Raccoon Bard. You tap it, and target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Good for limited. Basically, give everything haste, but don't think we're playing this in 60 card Magic. Storm Chaser's Talent. When it enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. Then you can pay 4. Wow, these are expensive levels. You pay 4. When this becomes level 2, return target instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. You can pay 6. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. Okay, so it makes sense that these levels are expensive, right? You're getting any spell you want back, and then every time you cast a spell, you get a 1/1 otter with prowess. Oh man. Prowess just cares about you playing non-creature spells, right? Doesn't have to be an instant or a sorcery. So you could still just play this in those decks, because worst case scenario, you're getting another 1/1 that happens to have prowess as well. So yeah, this goes. I mean, the levels are expensive on this, but the payoff is pretty high, so it's got a pretty high ceiling on it. But yeah, I think the decks that are just focused on prowess could get by playing this. I don't know how many I would play, but totally playable. Spellgeyer, 2 colorless, blue, blue. It's an instant, you choose one. You either get to counter target spell, or you surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. Yeah, this is solid. Like, it's a 4 mana hard counter, no way around it. Surveil 2, then draw 2 means you get your best value, potentially, of the top 4 cards. So nothing wrong with that. It's instant speed, so you can leave mana up on your opponent's turn. Yeah, this card's very playable. Wildfire Howl. Dude, that's kind of crazy art. Colorless red for sorcery. You can gift a card. Wildfire Howl deals 2 damage to each creature. If the gift was promised, instead it deals 1 damage to any target and 2 to each creature. Wait, what? Alright, so it deals 2 to anything, or you can give your opponent a card, and then you'll get to deal 1 additional damage to anything, and then deal 2 to... So we're giving... And not only that, this is sorcery speed. So we're paying 3 mana as a sorcery to deal 2 to everything, which is fine, because there's different versions of that. But then we get the option to give the opponent a card to hit 1 thing for 1 more point of damage, and then deal the 2 in that way. I don't know if a card's worth 1 point. Like, I mean, this is only an uncommon, but wow, okay, this feels weird. I don't think this is what we're gonna want, especially while Brotherhood's ends around. But I will say there may be some world where, depending on what you play this in, like you target your own thing, it gets a counter, or it can put a counter on all your things, so then your stuff doesn't die to this. Then maybe, this is the world where that belongs. But I'm not familiar enough with the new cards yet to know that that's a thing. But if that exists, then I could see playing this as your sweeper of choice against the other tokens decks and whatnot, and giving you a chance to save your team. Stocking the Pantry. It's a 1 green enchantment, so just 1 green mana. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. And then you can pay 2, remove a supply counter to draw a card. This is kind of cool. I think I could see a few +1/+1 decks playing this. It's just a way to get extra cards. And the cool part is, it's not even a once per turn. So for every 2 mana you have up during your opponent's end step, you can just draw a couple cards. Like, nothing wrong with this. I don't think it's crazy or anything. It's just playable. And again, I don't think this is one we're playing 4 of. We're probably playing 1 or 2. just as another way to draw cards down the line. But I also like that it's super cheap to set up. So you have a very low investment to get those cards, which is nice. And if you have something that scares about counters going on a card, this works with that stuff too. So a lot going on here with this, but I'm kind of into it. And here we have Valley Flamecaller, 2 colorless and a red for a 3/3 lizard warlock. If a lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 instead. I guess if we're already playing lizards and mice and whatever together in a deck, then this is probably reasonable. It just makes everything deal an additional 1. I don't know if the raccoon type decks would want it. However, because some of the raccoons are just green. If you had a lot of, I guess it wouldn't even matter. It's just a creature type. Maybe if we have enough that trample, especially, I think this could be played alongside them, and that would be reasonable. So yeah, this is an interesting one, especially if you get these in multiples. That could be pretty sweet. So like, yeah, I'm gonna give this. You know what? We also haven't seen a lot of larger lizards, so that's probably a reason this is going to get played. Because I can't think right off the top of my head. Feel like we've seen a bunch of 1s and 2s, not that many quality 3s and 4s that I think were outright playable. So yeah, this probably does make the cut, honestly. All right, well, that was a lot of crazy stuff, but I have a new question now. Now that we're starting to see all these different creature types come together, what creature type are you from Bloomburrow? Because I'm starting to feel like I'm a raccoon, y'all. Like, I'm into the raccoons for sure. But hey, let me know. I'm sure everybody likes a different creature type for a different reason. Also, don't forget, if you are looking for other previews, I'm going to link a video here. And if you want other decks that are already rotation ready, I've got like 20 ready to go. So I'm going to have those in a little note up here that y'all can just click on and check out some of those decks. But that's all I have for now. We'll see you next time.